Montel Fish got his start as a Christian YouTuber and worship leader. Within recent years, he crossed over leveraging TikTok to a meteoric rise, leading to major appearances on Jimmy Fallon and outlets like Genius. I consider Montell a friend. He's appeared on my channel multiple times. We've done multiple videos about all kinds of different topics, honestly, before I even had this YouTube thing even slightly figured out. But in recent months, his core Christian fan base has grown more concerned with the different expressions he's put on social media and in his music, leading many of you guys to flood my DMs, my Twitter mentions, and our Discord server with questions about what I think about Montell's new direction. I've avoided making this video as long as I've could. I've personally reached out to Montell to give him a heads up that I'd be making this video. And so here is my take on what may be going on with Montel Fish. The good, the bad, and the confusing.
Ruslan.
This video is gonna challenge you. Whether you are a Montel Fish fan or an ex-Montel Fish fan, this video is going to challenge you. But you need to stay till the end of the video for it to truly make sense, because it won't if you don't stick around and hear all of what I have to say. While I'm making this video, I said it very closely, clearly. We have a lot of cross-pollination with Montell's core fan base when he started, and a lot of you guys that watch this channel, obviously, I consider him a friend. He's been on here multiple times, and this is something I just haven't talked about as I've been sitting back, looking to make sense of it, trying to process it for myself. And Montell's someone that has been around my family. Not everybody that comes through that's on the channel gets to like meet my kids and be around my wife. Montell's one of those guys that's been around and immersed fully in my world, walking to go get ice cream together, staying the night, working on music that you guys will probably never hear of. Honestly, Montell just messing around on Reason and making beautiful, beautiful stuff while I'm just in awe. He's an extremely talented person. And many of us were very inspired by his explosion, right? The way he leveraged TikTok, the way he was able to explode. That first song, Talk to Me, was clearly a worship song. It was clearly about, not a worship song, but a song about God. And so I think as folks are watching this and demanding what do we think and his friends and all these sorts of things, I want to let you guys know, for starters, that Montell has some great friends around him. Okay, I spoke last time to Montell on my birthday, New Year's Eve. We actually did a thing here for charity water, and a bunch of different folks called in. Dr. Michael Brown, all kinds of friends called in. Montell was one of those brothers. He was very particular to make sure that I didn't clip it and leave it up on the channel, but he called in, and I think we raised over $12,000 that day to build clean water filtration systems in parts of the world that don't have clean water. All of it going to an organization which uses 100% of it for charity water. And so that's been our last like real communication. I've texted him multiple times. I kind of got ghosted by the ghost boy. You see what I did there? And I texted him today. And so I want to first start with just acknowledging that sometimes as Christians, as followers of Jesus, and again, this video is going to challenge all of you, okay? But sometimes as followers of Jesus, sometimes as Christians, we seldom give the benefit of the doubt in a situation with a creative person, an artist, whoever. And so when you don't give the benefit of doubt and have a good faith argument, meaning you're believing the best about the person, you start attributing to what you think is going on and what you think the person's motives are and what you think they're doing. Well, you don't really know because you don't really have a relationship, and playing an online accountability buddy through comments section isn't really how life is done in a local ecclesia church. So if I'm going to give Montell the benefit of the doubt, I would think something like Ghost Boy is a character that is a persona of his where he is putting together a narrative of sorts in a way to emotionally connect with people who are often overlooked by the modern church. Okay, I would extend that and say, well, maybe those cigarettes that he's smoking are really prop cigarettes. Maybe there's something coming at the end of this that is going to glue this all together in some sort of worship-esque moment of him coming back around, and that what you're seeing exhibited isn't the Montel Fish that I know personally. It's this character and this persona, Ghost Boy, designed to be a method actor of sorts. And artists have done this before. Multiple artists have played characters and immerse themselves in a concept of method acting. Now, that's providing the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt that he's young, that there is a tension with getting immense amounts of attention and fame, that he's still in his mid-20s. All those different things play into it, right? But it positions his audience, his core audience that's been with him since day one, when he was traveling and doing free shows at churches to just try and sell some merch for the Lord's Child brand. It could kind of position people to be in a tough situation with him because it almost feels like this is a whole new person, like this is a whole new artist, right? And so I think of it from one standpoint. I say, okay, well, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something that's going to come out of all of this. On the other side, there's also what seems to be a frustration with his audience. And that's kind of what we saw exhibited today. And that's ultimately what led me to make this video, because I just kind of sat back and said, well, let's see where this goes. I don't know. He hasn't talked to me like that, right? I don't know why, but he hasn't. So I don't ultimately know what's going on. But if I think about the passage from the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians, which if you haven't read the book of 1 Corinthians, you really should. Alan Parr is actually doing a brilliant video right now called Church Gone Wild, a series, if you will, of different videos on the topics. And there's a phrase in it where Paul says, I become all things to all people so that by all means I might save some. This is about Paul immersing himself within the cultural context of where he's at. And if you actually read the book of 1 Corinthians, there's a lot of him quoting their poets and their philosophers and relating to them. We also see Paul doing this in Acts chapter 17. However, it's never done in a way where it crosses the line of what Paul's or any followers of Jesus parameters of how we are to exemplify ourselves within culture. Meaning that we could engage culture, we can contextualize the gospel to culture, we could have empathy for people that are far from God, but we don't necessarily conform to be like them in order to reach them. At least never seeing it done and executed in a way where the person has maintained their walk with God. And I think that's where all of this kind of gets confusing. That's where all of this kind of gets, what are we doing? Where are we blurring the lines? And I think that's where I go, wait a minute. God wants to use us, but he doesn't need our help to go into the world as some undercover agents for Jesus to hopefully win people over. God's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to reach the people he's going to reach. And he wants us to be a part of that, but not at the expense of violating Scripture, not at the expense of violating our own sanctity. And again, I don't know where he is on a day-to-day basis, but this post was a bit jarring, if I'm honest. So this came out yesterday. He says, I know a lot of Christians judge me because you don't understand me, or you want me to go back to making some old ish. But my goal is to not be understood by you anymore. It's to comfort the effing lost through art. Just F off if you don't like my ish. Signed, Ghost Boy. Here, in my opinion, and if Montell's watching this, maybe he would agree, maybe he wouldn't. I think here is where the violation happens. Here is where there seems to be a lashing out of the very people that were with you when TikTok didn't care about you, where Jimmy Fallon didn't care about you, where the world didn't care about you, and they're puzzled and they're confused and they're looking like, yo, what, like, are you still a Christian? Are you not a Christian? What's going on? This is very confusing. Here, I think, is when we're crossing lines that don't need to be crossed. When you're now poking at a audience that's there for you and is just genuinely concerned. Now, to be fair, some of this audience is, y'all be kind of goofy online too. You want to be everybody's accountability partner. You don't have any relationship. You don't really know where the person's at. And so I can understand how this can trigger creative people, but that doesn't make this okay. That doesn't make this an excuse. That doesn't make this somehow wholesome in the way he responded here. And it goes into the broader conversation of being a professional Christian, of being someone that his livelihood at one point was dependent on him being a worship leader and operating in a faith and all of these different things, whether it's Christian YouTube or whatever. And so now you add the reality that Montell's still a young guy. You add the reality that Montell is mega famous in a very specific tribe and niche on TikTok, that there's other pathways to create art. And I think it ironically reminds me of one of my first interactions I had with Montell. Some of you guys don't know. But I made music. That's how I first started all of this stuff. In 2015, I quit my job because my wife said, hey, I think we should pursue this music thing and build this thing out. And I made music. And one of my first interactions was actually, you guys can go back and look at this. I had a song called They Don't Know, where oddly enough, I was the one playing a character. I was the one method acting, and I was the one playing a character who was struggling with alcohol. And Montel Fish reached out to me and was like, hey, bro, if God told you to take that music video down, would you do it? And I was like, absolutely, I would do it. But I feel like God had led me in this. And in the video, I wasn't cussing. I wasn't, you know what I mean? It was nothing like that. It was just showing the consequences and logical conclusions of abusing alcohol. That's what the video is up. So you can still check it out. It's called They Don't Know. And so it's funny that we kind of came full circle with some of these things. And before I give you guys my ultimate thoughts on what I think of all this stuff, what I think is new music, I want to make sure that you guys know that Montell has inspired me, believe it or not, with his meteoric rise on TikTok to make new music. And the fullness and the manifestation of that is coming out this Friday. And I want to give you guys a quick sneak peek. You may not know I make music, but I got a new song coming out. And it's something I need you to do. But first, I want you to hear a snippet of the song.
I went from being a porn addict to sharing the gospel with a porn actress who was criticized for being low status by the same OnlyFans who treat us so lavish. I'm confused.
I swear y'all thought he did doing podcasts, hot takes. He still can rap.
Now, in order to get this song to the top of Spotify, I need your help. I need you to click the link below or go to RuslanToTheMoon.com and pre-save this song. What is a pre-save? It means that this song will be added to your library to remind you to listen to it the day it comes out. And it also tells Spotify's algorithm that millions of people need to hear this song. So help me promote Christian music that contextualizes the gospel and will help change lives by going to RuslanToTheMoon.com or clicking the link below.
Oh, they got me with the dramatics. You knew that a moment cannot be static too soon.
Ruslan.
There's a proverb that says an inheritance attained too early in life is not a blessing in the end. That access to excess will oftentimes lead us astray when we just have too many options. And I don't know if that's the particular case with Montell. And some of you guys are asking me like, oh, what do you think of his music? I'll be honest with you, his music is not for me. This is made for a very specific type of person that's dealing with very specific types of issues. And I believe that the way to alleviate those issues is first and foremost to proclaim the gospel, but also to deal with things like getting solid Christian therapy, to deal with the wounds and the traumas from our childhood. And so if you guys haven't checked out, we have a mastermyhabits.com course I put together with my Christian therapist to provide free resource to those of you guys that are struggling with your mental health and those sorts of things. And so the music is not for me. So it doesn't really matter what I think about the music. It's not designed for me. I'm not in the target demographic of what he's doing. But I think the macro issue is count the cost, those of you guys that are looking to potentially be Christian anything. Be weary of branding yourself or identifying yourself or anchoring yourself as a Christian artist or a Christian YouTuber or a Christian podcaster. Be sure that you're not doing that out of a radical zeal without fully being settled into your faith. Be sure that you're dealing with all of your different issues before you brand yourself, because what's going to happen is you're going to get an audience that's going to love you, and then if you ever change, it's going to be very confusing for them. And that's what we're seeing happen in the natural. That's what we're seeing played out, is we're seeing someone that identified, and we've seen this before, and again, I don't know where Montell is. I really don't. I don't know where he is on his day-to-day. I would say this is a violation, and he shouldn't have posted this. I don't think there's anything okay about pushing back against your Christian audience. But I think you pray for him. I think you believe the best. I think you keep praying for him and you keep saying, hey, I'm rooting for you, but it's also okay to unfollow him if you don't like it. It's okay to say, I'm not really rocking with this. I don't like this. What's going on here? This makes no sense. Why are you using profanity? What are you doing with this method acting? Is this what happens when life starts to imitate art? Is this what happens? Is this what happened to the Tupacs? And some of you guys, that may be a super old reference, right? Is this what happens when people immerse themselves and get famous and get a lot of money and a lot of access to all these different resources, and then there's a persona that's being portrayed like the Ghost Boy persona, and then all of a sudden the real you and the persona of you gets blurred, whether that's Drake kind of presenting himself as this mafioso tough guy or whoever. Art imitating life or life imitating art is a very murky thing. And so I would just encourage you guys, 1, pray for him. 2, you don't really know what's going on. 3, he still has Christian brothers and sisters around him that are praying for him, that are doing their best. I can't speak on a lot of the stuff that's happened offline and private because this stuff is just for offline and private. But I would say that if you don't like this, the best course of action is not to be belligerent back and lash out back in a comment section. The best course of action is to check out and say, yeah, this isn't for me anymore. This isn't edifying me anymore. This isn't encouraging me anymore, right? If that's how you feel. But trying to hold any creative accountable through social media is only going to make this worse. And I know that's not the answer you guys need to hear. I know that's not the answer you guys want to hear, but that's the answer you guys need to hear. Pray for Montell. Pray for all the brothers that are wrestling with their faith and trying to figure it out. But you don't have to stick around. You don't have to stay supporting it. You don't have to go to the shows. You don't. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's okay to move on, right? But trying to be his accountability partner through a comment section is only whatever he's dealing with, whatever things he's trying to process, for whatever reason he's lashing out at Christians, is only going to make this worse, right? So, as always, I tell Christian fans this all the time. You guys really need to lower those expectations. Pray for this brother. Hey man, maybe he pulls this off. Maybe this is him playing the character the same way that Denzel played, the bad guy in Training Day. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't advise it. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's beneficial. I think there's a time and a place where we need to be overt and we need to be clear with the gospel. I think there's a time and a place where you have the attention of the people and you need to be direct. You need to tell people that, Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the way. Jesus is how we find healing. Jesus is how we find restoration. And it's not a lofty religious concept. It's a personal relationship. And so, again, my advice to all you guys, man, pray for Montell. But we don't know where this is going to take him. We don't know how this is going to play out. Do I like it? No. I'm not a fan of that. That's not cool. And he knows, right? But it doesn't even matter what I think at the end of the day. It matters whatever he's going through and that he gets the therapy and the closure and all the things he deals with so that he's in a healthy place spiritually. Above Montell being a Christian artist or a worship leader, just be praying for Montell's walk with Jesus. Because if he's solid with Jesus, listen, man, I'm way more, all right, look, do you, just don't violate. Just don't cross those lines. We all know what those lines are. We all know where those violations are. So those are my thoughts on this, man. If you guys want to see my original conversations with Montell from years ago where he would pull up and spend a week over here and we talk about all kinds of things, about manhood, I'm going to pin this over here. I want you guys to go back, check that out. I'll see you over there, all right? Peace.